Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this fifth webinar organized in the frame of the Sustainable Energy Investment Forum by the Executive Agency for Small and Medium-Sized Enterprise. My name is Céline Tougeron, and I'm a project advisor in the Energy Unit in charge of the Horizon 2020 Energy Efficiency Funding Program and its predecessor, the Intelligent Energy Europe program. We are here today to discuss renovation of public buildings in Europe. It's important to accelerate investments in sustainable energy to meet the objective of the Energy Union and support the transition to a clean energy system. In that context, the European Commission proposed part of its Clean Energy for All European package to review the energy efficiency targets to be reached by 2030 to abiding 30%. And it also stated at the highest political levels that cities and regions do play a key role. More than 7,000 local and regional authorities are part of the Convent of Mayors initiative, all committed to achieve EU climate and energy targets. They develop a sustainable energy and climate action plan, in which renovation of public building is an essential part. And the main question that we will address today in this webinar is how can cities and regional authorities finance those investments and the identified project pipeline. This webinar is made of 4 presentations, and they aim to present initiatives which are currently running in Europe, set in place by front-runner cities and regions. We will first have a presentation of a study, comparative study on innovative financing mechanism for energy efficiency, based on 24 concrete case studies across the EU. And this will be presented by Miguel Casas from Energinvest. We will then have detailed presentation of 2 concrete initiatives. The first one is the creation of a one-stop shop in Belgium with the RenoWatt initiative. It provides assistance to participating authorities in the energy renovation of their building. And this will be presented by Erika Honnay. We will then have a presentation of the REFIT project, which aims to simplify public procurement of energy efficiency contract in the UK. And this will be presented by Robert McKinnon. And I will then end this webinar with a presentation of 2 of the opening calls in the energy efficiency topic of Horizon 2020, the project development assistance, and the innovative financing scheme. It's a broad topic, and for sure we won't have time to cover it all. So we have asked all speakers to have to speak around 15 minutes, but then we will have a dedicated question and answer session at the end of each of the sessions. I would just like to explain you how you can ask questions. You have a box on your interface where you can write a question to the speaker. These questions will be reviewed by our team, and the most relevant one will be asked to the speakers, so that they can address them live. And the other questions, we will collect them and we will come back to you later on with a reply. I also wanted to indicate that all materials and the recording of this webinar will be available after the end of the webinar on the page of the SEI forum. I also encourage you to have a look to this page, which is quite rich of presentations, proceedings, project stories that have been presented over the 2 last years already of this initiative. And I also wanted to make a really small clarification. This webinar do not aim to debate on the recording of energy performance contract on government accounts. It's a very technical issue, and Eurostat and EIB are currently preparing a new practical guide which will target primary public authorities. And this guide will better define the circumstances where the EPC provider can be considered the economic owner of the EPC assets, and therefore this EPC contract would be considered off balance sheet. And this is expected to be released in the forthcoming month. So we will come back to that once material will be there. So without further, I would like to introduce the first presentation. So as mentioned earlier, Miguel will present this study, which has been done in the frame of the Energinvest project. It's a project which has been financed by the Horizon 2020 program of the European Commission. It is a comprehensive review of mechanisms and instruments to provide solutions to address large-scale and deep energy efficiency renovations in buildings. Miguel is a partner and senior financial consultant at Energinvest. He is a very experienced senior financial consultant specialized in third-party financing development, investment analysis, and financial aspects of EPC projects. He has worked on EPC projects like the Belgian Federal Fedazil project and the project of the Province of the Brabant Wallon. He is also a co-author of this analysis. Miguel, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Céline. Thank you, Céline and Florian and the SEIF for allowing me to talk about the Energinvest project. Next slide, please. And in particular about the analysis and comparison of the 24 existing models addressing large-scale and deep energy efficiency retrofit programs involving public authorities. We did this across 11 countries in Europe. And what we aim to do, or we try to do, is to focus on different characteristics that came back in the different models. And we focused, for instance, on the level of ambition. We tried to find out how far the models wanted to go into the energy savings. We looked at the implementation model. How have the energy conservation measures been implemented? We looked at the structures that had been put in place and what the operating model was of the different structures and what the services were that those models were delivering to the beneficiaries. And then ultimately, we looked at the sources of financing and we tried to find out how these different models were financing the investment in energy efficiency. And what we also did at the end was provide guidance material to support local authorities in their own search for financing their energy efficiency programs and renewable energy programs. Next slide, please. The next slide, I just need 7 to 8 minutes of your focus because it's an animated slide. What I try to do is put all the 24 models in one graph showing the structures and the way the structures and the investments have been financed. So next please. Yes, next please again. Okay, here we go. So what we actually see is that there are a lot of developers who are in relationship with DESCOs or energy service companies or installers or contractors to implement energy efficiency measures and programs. And everybody's doing his own thing from its own corner. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. And then you've got a program authority who believes that things can be done differently, that in order to accelerate energy efficiency, things need to happen. Next slide, please. And what they do is they set up a structure funded by the program authority, what we call in the study a program delivery unit. And this program delivery unit is responsible for actually executing the whole energy efficiency program. Okay. If we look at closely to the program delivery unit, then we see that they have 3 ways of offering services, or what we call operating models. Next slide, please. And the first one is the facilitating model. So the program delivery unit is actually going to help the beneficiaries or the project developers in the implementation of the energy conservation measures of the works, and in the relationship with the installer, ESCOs, and contractors. If they go beyond the facilitation, next slide please, then we call it an integration model. And what the program delivery unit is doing, it's actually standing between the beneficiaries and the ESCO, and it takes actually all the responsibility of follow-up, execution of the works, follow-up of the works, and it even goes up to financing of the work. If I look at the 24 models, then I would highlight two models, one being Énergie Positive and the other being SPI Picardie, both in France, of two examples of integration models where you can easily find good information, because the success of the models is not only the many millions that they achieve in investing, but also the way they disseminate information and the way they participate to the building capacity. And these are two models of integration that it's really worthwhile going to detail. So I could find information, so I'm sure that you will find a lot of information. Next slide, please. Okay, so with integration, it means that the beneficiary, the relationship beneficiary and ESCO goes a little bit to the background. Next slide, please. Okay, if we look at those structures, then we see that often the operating expenses of the structure are being funded through grants. It might be European Union, national or local grants. Next, please. The investment as such are being funded in a different way. And the really classical way of funding or financing the investments in energy efficiency is the financial institutions. Next slides, please. Sorry, next, yeah. And that was the first financing vehicle. A second financing vehicle is, of course, the ESCO. The ESCO who is investing in the energy efficiency measures and gets paid or reimbursed by the beneficiaries through the energy savings. And what we often see is that, of course, the ESCO cannot put constantly all the investments on their balance sheets, so they seek a refinancing of the investment. And one of the classical ways to do so is to address to the financial institution and get financed by the financial institution. Next slide, please. A third financing vehicle is the program delivery unit himself. Sometimes the program authorities go beyond just integrating technically, but want to do the financing as well. And that is the third financing vehicle that we can find. Next slide, please. And of course, what we sometimes see is that the program authorities set up a kind of an internal investment fund just to do the financing. Next, please. And then we come to our third operating model, which is a financing model, which is the financing only model. So the program delivery unit is not interfering in the works, it's not facilitating the works, but it's just providing financing. Next, please. And of course, the program delivery unit is not only raising funds through their own equity, but is getting money, if they can, from banks. Next, please. The fourth financing vehicle are third-party investments. These are investment funds that are specialized in energy efficiency, and then actually they have the same characteristics as financial institutions. Next slides, please. They provide financing to the beneficiaries, they provide financing to the ESCO, or they provide financing to the program delivery unit. If I look at the different models, then I would like to highlight three models that, in my opinion, have been structured very well, which is the CREDEX funds in Estonia, the Energy Efficiency Fund in Bulgaria, and the Energy Fund of The Hague in the Netherlands. Three funds three revolving funds that have a good structure and that have quite some experience in the meantime, for which you can find a lot of information. Sometimes it's not enough to have banks and to have investment funds, because there is a perception of risk, so that the next slide please, so that the credit guarantee funds and the insurance companies have to come in place. They often provide guarantee to beneficiaries, to the ESCOs, or again to the program delivery unit. And together, if we blend the whole lot, financial institutions, third-party investment funds, and credit guarantee funds or insurance guarantees, these vehicles actually provide financing for the energy efficiency programs. And then we've got a last financing vehicle, next slide, which is the citizens funding or the crowdfunding. It's pretty new. It doesn't have 100 years. And here we see that it's the citizens through citizen cooperatives, through crowdfunding platforms that are, financing the investments through often the beneficiaries. I've not come across citizens funding or crowdfunding where the intermediate parties are being funded yet, but I guess that in the future that will be the case. So this is a little bit how would I say, the 24 models in a nutshell. I came across one model where you saw that the third-party investment fund is financing the ESCO, and that is the Sunshine Fund in the Sunshine project in Latvia, where the ESCO is factoring their accounts receivables to the third-party investment fund, and which is again one of those projects that have quite some experience and could be an example for many others. Next slide, please. Again, next slide. Okay, great. So what do we do here? Here we made a graph putting on the x-axis the financing vehicles and putting on the x-axis the facilitator, integrating and financing only operating mode, and on the y-axis we put the financing vehicles. And what we actually see is that there are two big clusters. There is the cluster around the facilitator model, where services are given without too much interference. And here we see that these models are often financed just classically through financial institutions or ESCO financing through the ESCO itself. And we have a second cluster around the integrator model, where we see that financing is partially done or in majority done by investment funds and the program delivery unit itself. Next slide, please. Another interesting thing that we try to do is to do a kind of an ambition mapping. And here again, on the x-axis, we put what I would call contract duration or investment intensity, or call it payback. And it goes up to from 15 years up to 25 years and more than 30 years. And on the y-axis, we show the level of ambition. And then we've got like 4 perimeters or 4 zones. And what we actually see is that 2/3 of the models are within the first market practices perimeter 1, where the investment volumes are up to 50 euro per square meter. And what we see here, that the typical energy conservation measures that we find here is the retrofit and regulation of climate and electrical engineering installations. That's a typical thing that you do. Of course, with this kind of investments, you don't reach 50%, but you reach 30 to 35%. If you have more ambition as program authority and you want to get up to 50%, and then you have to start investing a little bit more. That can go up to 200 euro per square meter. We see that only 1/5 of the models are in this perimeter, and the difference between the previous group and this group is that in this group you need all the measures taken in the first group, but you need also to touch or to implement measures based on the building envelope and on-site renewable energy production and advanced regulation. So it takes quite more effort from a financial point of view. Models that want to go beyond 50% of energy savings, and we've only seen two, and of course with very long paybacks up to 25 years. Well, those models, they will have to invest up to easily €1,200 per square meter. And again, here we talk about deep retrofit where the investment in the building envelope exceeds 50% of the total investment. So it's pretty, I mean, very investment intensive. And then ultimately there was one model where the investment was far beyond €1,200 per square meter. I think it was about €10,000. No, it was about €10,000 per inhabitant. And here you have like carbon neutrality, but the paybacks are enormous, over 40, 50 years. Next slide, please. So to come to some conclusions, we've seen that the success of the models depend largely from the existence of a well-functioning program delivery unit. And it is extremely important that there be a clear leadership role of the public partner, of the program authority. We saw that lower ambition levels, so up to 35%, they are mostly driven by facilitation models, so where is facilitation and no integration, and implementation of energy performance contracts and energy supply contracts. And typically those models are being the investments are being financed through banks, financial institutions, and the ESCO. Once we go beyond the 35%, we reach 50%, 75% savings, then the models are almost always integration driven, both technically, so the taking care of the works, but also financially taking care of the financing of the projects, of the investments. And what we also saw is that high energy efficiency levels, they never focus on short-term or medium-term payback terms, but that they let it go, and they are not afraid of investing over 20 and 30 years. And what we also saw is that you need specific financing vehicles which are not the ESCO financing and not just bank. In other words, the profitability, the financial logic behind the model is just one of the many investment criteria that we saw. And that's about my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Miguel. I think that was a really nice presentation and really clear. I just wanted to remind the audience, you don't need to wait until the end of the presentation to ask questions. So we are collecting them on the way. And just also to make clear again, you have a box in your interface where you can write the question. So don't hesitate to use it. And I will now give the floor to Andy, who will ask the questions received now. Thank you.
Miguel, so two related questions. One is whether all of the financial models that you spoke about and are included within the review are only for public buildings, or whether all building ownership and categories are included. Oh, no, and then the related question is whether a public partner is always needed or not. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Andy. For the first question, no, of course not. I mean, some models focus on municipalities, on provincial authorities. Some models focus on, how would I say, public buildings. Other focus on commercial buildings. So there is a mixture of beneficiaries. So it's not always the public buildings. What is the case is that the program authority is always public. So you might have a program that is addressing, like Padova Fit, it's addressing retrofit of apartment building blocks, but it's private, but it's the program authority who's public. That's one thing. And I have to admit that I forgot the second question. Could you repeat the second question?
Yeah, the second question was whether within the financial model, your slide with a lot of animation, whether a public partner is always a necessary part of the picture.
I don't think it is a necessary part of the picture, but it might be a coincidence, but the 24 models have public authorities as the initiator of the program. So the program, because remember we talked about large scale energy efficiency programs, and in order to take initiative at large scale, I think that you need a lot of money that is being spent upfront for study work to actually fund and finance the operating expenses of the structures. And I think that governments have more access to grants and stuff like that than private would do. So I think, and I'm sure that might be private initiatives, but if we want to go large scale, I think that the vast majority is public.
Very much, Miguel. And we're going to stop the question and answer session now for your presentation. And additional questions will be sent to Miguel and will be answered by email in the coming days. Thank you, Miguel.
Thank you.
I will now introduce our second presentation. The RenoWatt initiative is the largest EPC project in Belgium. It received in May 2017 the European Project Best Service Award. It concluded within 3 years EPCs for more than 60 million on behalf of 12 public institutions, municipality, province, and one hospital. It's an example of a one-stop shop acting as tendering center for those institutions. And a few words about Erika. Erika Honnay is the project director of RenoWatt. She works in various Horizon 2020 projects on energy efficiency. She was also involved in the Energinvest initiative that we just heard about. And she is helping different regions in Europe to launch similar projects in the territory. She's also part of the Belgian Task Force for Energy Poverty. Erika, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Good morning to everybody. So today the goal is to introduce you RenoWatt's project within 15 minutes. So actually, the origins of RenoWatt's project, actually, it was started by an organization that's called Redeployment Economic Group of Liège. And we can go to the next slide, even to next slide, please. And next one, yeah. So the mission of GRE-Liege is to develop sustainable conditions for future jobs and for the future generation. It was created in 2004 after the closure of ArcelorMittal. So it means that for this agency, the goal, yeah, for sure, it's important to decrease CO2 emission and to have buildings that are more energy efficient. But really the goal was to create sustainable jobs. According, and we can go to the next slide, according to the European Union, 1 million invested in energy efficiency can lead to create at least 17 jobs. We made some calculation in Wallonia. We need to invest 30 billion euro in the different building to improve the energy efficiency of the building. it means that even if we do 1 billion per year, it would be the creation of more than 17,000 jobs over the next 30 years. On top of that, 93% of the energy is imported in Wallonia, so it means that it's just get out of your GDP, meaning that it's a loss of value for the country. If you shift your expenses and you put it, I would say, instead of paying energy bill, you put it in works, in energy works and construction, actually it's really increase as well your GDP. So that's the origin of the project. So it's really economic origin, and it really talks as well to politicians to help them to launch this type of project. Our main supporter was a minister, and is still the Minister of Economy in Wallonia. So that's as well a way, I would say, how to introduce a project when you feel that politicians and deciders are not that much concerned about energy efficiency. So we were wondering, actually, okay, energy efficiency, it's important. It can really increase the, I would say, the economy of the country, and why public authorities are not launching programs. And they told us it's difficult, it's expensive, we don't know how to do, where to start from, and we don't have the budget for that. And actually, the European Union realized the same, and that was, or we realized the same of the European Union, and that's why the European Union decided to launch different type of technical assistance. And we can go to the next slide. And the technical assistance, actually, it's really to help countries to launch large and ambitious energy efficiency programs, and to help you actually to be able to have consultants, to staff that are really dedicated to launch energy efficiency programs. But in those programs, and it's very good, the European Union actually does not finance to have studies, but finance you to make sure that you have some energy efficiency that are launched, energy efficiency works that are launched. So it means that if you receive €1 for the European Union, you need to invest, and it depends on the program, that's a leverage factor, between 50 and €20 in energy efficiency constructions. If you do not do that, you will need to reimburse your subsidy. When you see that, actually, it's quite a lot of money that you need to invest. So it's between, with Horizon 2020, it can be between from 7.5 million, but it can go up to 30-50 million investment. And one municipality does not want to take the risk. So, and even the province was, no, for us, we don't want to take the risk, it's too much. And on top of that, it's too difficult for us, we don't know those type of program. And so we decided, why don't we launch a program and we create a one-stop shop, and we would gather all the competency in the one-stop shop, and we would go to the European Union to get this subsidy. And so like that, we could get to larger investment pool, and we could go and get those type of technical assistance. So what we decided to do, and it's on the next slide, is that we created this one-stop shop where public actors comes to the one-stop shop. And then after we help, can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah. So public actors comes to the one-stop shop, and what are we doing? So it's a small team. We were 5 people. No, actually, we were going to increase to 10 people. And we are helping to do all the building selection. So it's we are doing some work studies, but as well some quick scan. And then after, we made some work to see how to finance it, what would be the less expensive for the public authorities, and what is the best options to finance it. And we are launching on behalf of the public authorities all the tendering procedures. So here Cécile already gave some figures about RenoWatt. So I would go to the next slide, please. Next one again. Yeah. So we've launched within 30 months EPC for €60 million. But as you understand, we had 12 public authorities and we had 5 different EPC. So you understand that the principle is that we put the different public authorities within the same within the same contract. So I will go perhaps to next slide, please. Yeah. So here, what are we doing is that as soon as we can go already to the next slide, what are we doing is that when people are going to the tendering agency, what we are doing is that we are doing all the tendering procedure for them. And we have different municipalities, and we have all the tendering procedures that are done on behalf of them. And we are pooling the different cities together and the different municipalities. So because some small municipalities can't afford to launch EPC or don't have enough buildings, and the fact actually to be able to pool the different buildings together, decrease the risk on one side for the ESCO, because it has a lot of different buildings, so it's really decrease the risk if they make estimation mistake of energy efficiency on one building. It means that they're gonna they won't do it on all the buildings, so they decrease their risk. They have more buildings, so it's a better price for the municipalities, and as well for the municipalities. And for us, it's decreased all, I would say, the preparatory work, as we only have one tender rather than 12 different tenders for the different public authorities. So we are working mainly on energy performance contracts. So some of the buildings, sometimes we say it's not good buildings to do EPC. And what I say is that we are grouping the building into batches and pools of building. And really, when a municipality joins the tendering agency, they need to agree about on those principles. So what's our approach? So on the next slide, we do really, I would say, offer a global solution. So it's with the EPC, it's one global solution. It's one person you are talking to, and they are doing the consumption, the works, and the maintenance. You have a guarantee solution on your energy savings. And what's good is that, and it's good to talk with the finance director in the municipality, is that you really have a guarantee on your energy savings. So you are sure about the return on investment for your project. You have a win-win approach for the public authorities and the ESCO, because in case of extra energy savings, you can the extra energy savings are split between the ESCO and the municipality. We are proposing financing possibility support. So here we negotiated with banks to be able to finance the works, and so we are doing all the tendering procedure as well for financing on behalf of the different public authorities, and we are looking as well on the selection of the different buildings based on their financial constraints. So that it's really a big work that we are doing to make sure that it can get into the municipality account constraint. And we have decided to include it in the country debt, and we are not doing any third-party investment because it's too expensive for the municipalities. But as Cécile say, we will not get into that debate now because it's very complex. What are the steps actually? So to be able to do this type of work and to be able to help the public authority to select the building, we have actually in Belgium and in Wallonia, sometimes some of the municipalities, they don't even know the building they have. So when you ask them to select the building, it's always something that can be as well a bit difficult. So we tell them, okay, give us as much building as you want, and then we help them to have an energy cadastre. That's the first things that we are doing. After that, we are selecting already some buildings. We always work next to the municipality. We don't know the building. The municipality owns and maintains and manage their building. So we don't take any decision on behalf of the public authorities. We are really there to help them and to advise them. So first step is the energy cadastre. After it's quick scan. So the quick scan, it's like audit, but very quick audit, because actually the ESCO will do the work again. So it's really to be able to see the potential and to estimate the investment that we're going to need to dedicate for the construction works. We do the financial return on investment, and that we are working with the finance director to help them to select the building. Actually, even if it can be, I would say, profitable, we see, and what we try to do is that we are looking at the cash flow of the municipality, and we are looking that the municipality, the energy saving And the extra cost on maintenance, because it's in energy performance contract, you have maintenance as well that you have to include, pays actually the reimbursement of the loan, so the capital plus the interest. And we are trying to see what are the constraints of each of the municipality to try to include as much possible building. Some of the municipality tell us, for me, I can have a negative cash flow of 100,000 euro per year. So that we are selecting the building and as much building to go to the constraint of the municipality. So each municipality has its own constraint, and there is a financial return on investment. We are really helping municipalities to select the building. After that, we are doing the technical inventories, so to make sure that you have a good maintenance on the different equipment during the energy performance contract. We are doing an inventory of all the technical, all the things that will be included in the EPC. And that it's important, and actually after that, all those things will go into the technical specification when we are launching all the tendering procedure. I will lie if I'll tell you that it's easy actually to launch such things. So for us, with the technical assistance, we had 30 months to do everything. And when you do that for the first time, and we can go to the next slide, 26 months at least are needed to be able to launch those type of program. When you see here, first you need to launch a tendering agency to make all the different documents, you know, for its contractual documents between the tendering agency and municipalities. Municipality needs to subscribe, and then after you start working with the municipalities, there are things that you do in parallel, because otherwise you won't have enough time, where you do all the building collection, building selection, quick scan, all the financial analysis. And then after, in parallel, you need to prepare all the tendering procedures. And then after, you need to launch a tendering procedure where you have first candidate selection. You received all the candidate offer, you select the candidates, and then after you share. So we are doing tendering procedure in 2 different phases. First, you select the candidates, and then after you share the technical specification. It allows you to be able only to discuss with people that have the capability to answer this type of program and EPC. And during those time, it's building selection, and then after you do some information session, and then after candidate can submit their offer. That it takes at least 3 to 4 months, because ESCO needs to visit all the building, needs to make the audit of all the building, and to estimate the energy efficiency that they're going to be able to guarantee on one side, and on the other side, which type of works and investment it will do. After that, as soon as we receive the type of the different offers, we are analyzing them, asking questions, and then after we go to rounds of negotiation. So for each of the EPC contract and for each of the ESCO, we have between 2 and 3 sessions, and then after we have the contract awards, and we launch after the different works. All that, each of the different steps, we need to align all the municipalities together. And that takes a lot of time as well, is that if you need to coordinate the different municipalities, you need to go and you need to explain them how it works. So it means, for example, for one decision for the municipality subscription, for example, I had at least 2 meetings per municipalities. When you have after the building selection and you go to the financial analysis, it takes up to 5 meetings with the municipalities. But when we are working with 12 municipalities, you can count how many meetings you have in sometimes very short time frame, and you need to foresee as well the agenda of the municipality. You can't come, for example, with your building selection in March because it's too late for the budget and you need to wait for the next budget. So you need as well to put your program based on the municipality agenda when decision needs to be taken and so forth. So the lesson learned is that the advantage for them, why municipality would like to join RenoWatt. First of things is that we are doing it's for free for them, so it's already something that it's important. And because we are doing all the subsidy negotiation on behalf of the publicity of the municipalities, we had some negotiation with the government, and we could get actually that it's outside of the budget boundary for municipalities. So it's not considered, I would say, for the municipality as their debt, although it's considered for the Walloon region. But so it helps them to be able to finance quite a lot of building. We are taking care of all the tendering procedure. So we are doing the negotiation of the ESCO. We have some very good, I would say, advisor as well, because thanks to the technical assistant, we can pay some very good lawyers that help us really to advise us all along the procedure. We help them on the financing reflection. We do all the technical analysis. And last but not least, we are neutral and public facilitator. We are not private, so we are not there to try to push one or another solution. We are really there to help the municipalities and to make the bridge between the ESCO and the municipality, to help them to be able to launch the work. And it's very important for me to be neutral and public to do this type of role. The lesson learned when we have launched after 30 months this project is that it's very important to have the political commitment from the municipality on one side, but as well from the ministry as well. We had to negotiate tons of different things. We have to change some law, so that it's very important to have people behind you. It's not easy to convince public authorities, and especially to work with EPC. It's still new for them. They don't understand, although they say that they understand. After it goes against the way they are working. So it's very difficult. Politicians, they love it because the EU say it's good to work under EPC, it's new, but it's a real challenge to convince the technical staff. As I say, it's important to have a public body to gather the different public authorities and to help them and to support them. It's expensive to prepare such type of procedure. So you have money that exists in the European Union with a technical assistant, get the technical assistance. Although you're doing everything for public authorities, they still need to have time to dedicate to the project because it's their building. So, and we are doing a lot of meetings with them. They need to give us the data and things like that. So I would say it's a lie if you tell to public authorities that they don't have to do everything. If it's the first time that you do that, you need to work with professionals who know how the market works and how EPC works. EPC, it's not always easy to manage, so it's good to launch EPC, but after how to be able to execute the EPC, how to be able to check the savings. That actually now municipalities, they don't know how to make it, so we still need to support them with the management of the execution. EPC, it's good, but it's not the only solution. So really think about, do you need to do an EPC or not? It's expensive, the EPC, it's difficult, and sometimes it's not the good solution. If you want to have as well, for example, we had another program with the university, and they wanted to have a lot of innovation. You won't get so much innovation with the EPC, and you can't impose to the ESCO the type of material, for example, that you want. So check what you want to do, and then after you launch your EPC, if it's that. You need really to take into consideration, as I said, the process of decision for the municipalities to make sure that you're on time and to have your difference. Technical assistance, what's good as well is that it helps you to keep the timing. You know, sometimes I was pressing public authorities to take decision and they say, it's not easy, or my team, and I say, hey guys, it's not because of me. I have 30 months, you know, it's because of the technical assistance. So it's really good as well to make sure that you have a good timing and then you stay and you remain on the top of the agenda of all the politicians. And last but not least, but it's very important, communicate with the municipalities and the project manager. It takes at least 50% of its time to communicate with the different municipalities. So know the future actually, but no, it's not a future. We are actually in a Walloon project. So we have introduced yesterday the official Elena project for 3.5 million. The goal is to launch for more than 100 million in the next 3 years of EPC. And actually the project has been extended to, we are now a Walloon project, and it has been extended to the 262 Walloon municipalities. Voilà. I don't know if you have any question.
Thank you very much, Erika. Yes, we do have some questions for you. Andy?
Hi, Erika. Yes, we have a lot of questions, so we'll take just 2 or 3. Firstly, a question on criteria for the grouping of buildings. So which criteria are used to pool buildings? Is it only the building type, or how do you decide?
For example, so the criteria we had for during the pilot project was about first the type of building, because we had one EPC for administrative building, another one for schools, another one for sport, all the sports building of the municipalities. So that was the first criteria. Second criteria as well is about the size of the pool, because we had 2 different EPC, for example, for the schools, and that was about the size to have 2 pools that were the same, and as well about the geography, because it's quite large, even the province of Liège. So we tried to have buildings that are grouped based on their geographical position. In the future, I will not do the same. I will still keep one EPC for sport equipment because it's very specific. But for administrative building and schools, I will group them in the same. So it's going to, because here now municipalities, sometimes they have 3 different contracts, and so it's quite difficult for them. So it would be better to have 2 contracts or 1. So I will group based on the geography and based on, so first it's going to be the municipality, the size of the pool, and the geography.
Thank you. Then a question on whether you encountered any problems with capacity or availability from delivery partners in the construction sector, or was the actual installation of works widespread between multiple partners?
For sure, the ESCO market is not well developed in Wallonia. So, for example, now we have launched a new EPC for an hospital, and my main fear is not having enough candidates. So we have the large group, and that was okay, and now they are delivering well. But we had first 6 candidacy. We had to eject 2, so we end up with 4, and during the procedure, 2 other left. So there is a real, I would say, capacity problem in terms of the, I would say, on the side of the ESCO, where the offer is not there sometimes.
Thank you.
But you need to have the demand, and you need to create the demand to have industry that are offering something. So no, I think that in Wallonia, people are thinking a bit more into EPC and how to be able to offer something in EPC.
Very good. And then a final quick question. Can you clarify the cost of the program as against the tonnage of CO2 saved? So one slide you showed, somebody has suggested that it was 30 billion for 7,500 tons of CO2, but that doesn't seem quite right.
No, 30 billion euro, it's the size of the renovation market in Wallonia, and it's how important it is. So if we want to get to the, and that actually it's an old calculation, it was to get to the H2020 goal, so the 20% decrease of increase of energy efficiency in the building, it would cost to Wallonia 30 billion euro. So the CO2 savings, it's the CO2 saving were that was for 36.6 million euros. So it's 7,545 tons of CO2 savings. It's again 36 million investment that you need to make it.
Thank you very much, Erika. And if there is any other question, we will forward them to you later on. Thank you again. And I would like now to introduce the third presentation. This will be the REFIT project, which is a retrofitting of London's public sector building. It is one of the pillars of the Mayor of London strategic approach to climate mitigation in London. This presentation will focus on the services provided by the project development units, as well as the tendering process with pre-selected ESCOs. Robert is an experienced business development and marketing professional who has worked for the National REFIT program over the past 4 years. He worked in England and in Wales and previously in London. He helped building this program with growing its awareness and the numbers of participating public organizations. Robert, the floor is yours.
Right, I'm unmuted now. Hello, yeah. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. My name is Robert McKinnon. I'm a project director with local partnerships. I've been working actually on the REFIT program since 2011 in London, in the rest of England, and also in Wales. And I've been helping, I think, over 100 public organisations, could even be more, to really deliver real change across their public buildings. Today, I want to share some of the challenges that the English public sector face, an overview of the REFIT program and its processes, the range of projects that it can deliver, the help that is being mentioned in previous colleagues' presentations, and the type of support that we deliver, and basically share examples of clients who have taken that program and the outputs of their projects, so you can see some real delivery. Next slide, please. Next slide. Thank you. Sometimes working in the public sector can feel like we're trying to move mountains. The number of challenges that we face is increasing, driving the efficiency and sustainability of our estates and also the land, generating income, which is increasingly becoming a driver across English councils and government departments, supporting the local economy and improving air quality, to name but a few. All of this is required with a reduction in resources, knowledge, skills, money, rising demand for services, and increasingly asset strategic reviews, which are causing uncertainty about the tenure of buildings within the public sector. Energy is one of the largest controllable overheads in many public buildings, and there are many opportunities to make savings, generate income through energy demand management and energy generation. We are seeing many organisations affecting real change and actually delivering real results. Next slide, please. The REFIT program is a public sector initiative which allows public bodies to achieve substantial, guaranteed financial benefits through energy efficiency or generation. It is now in its third version as a framework and is jointly owned by the Mayor of London and local partnerships. Local partnerships is owned by Treasury and Local Government Association and works outside of London on the REFIT program and also in Wales. The framework is a basis of an energy performance contract which contracts under the following. They're contractually bound to achieve set performance criteria, which is stated by the client at the tender stage. That's CO2 reduction, return of investment, payback periods, capital spend. The supplier on the framework guarantees the level of savings, which are typically used to repay the cost of the measures and ultimately, if there's any underachievement, they will pay the difference during the contract period. In order to ensure the savings are delivered, the supplier's performance is verified and monitored during the whole term of the contract, and this report is issued annually and reviewed independently. The framework has 16 suppliers, and they have to adhere to pre-agreed contract terms. This allows efficient tendering, it saves time and resources, and it allows the procurement of energy efficiency and generation measures with guaranteed savings or outputs. And the procurement can be flexible, it can be phased, the contract terms can be molded to the client's needs, and we can bring in a range of financing arrangements which can be blended against the project's requirements and the solutions. As it's been stated previously, support is available from our expert teams. Energy performance contracting is quite new as a concept, but we have support in teams in London, in England, and in Wales. And their objective is to create the optimal business case, an overall approach with a program, and share best practice and lessons learned. This is making a real difference in how projects are being positioned to key decision makers and allowing projects to be delivered effectively, and also ensuring that they are procurement compliant as well. Next slide, please. What we see when I'm talking to clients is these four main areas to manage across their estate. It's maximizing sites, managing backlogs, and planning capital programs. Often, those organizations will try to do this all at the same time with limited resources and budgets. What we're coming in now and helping is to remove the known constraints with effective business cases, highlighting the resources that will be needed internally to support the project, removing traditional single solution energy conservation measures approaches which we have seen traditionally in the past, helping to deliver innovation, operational efficiency, and better experience within the buildings by staff, patients, or even pupils. Increasingly, we're seeing how they want to generate income and help to contribute to the organisation's future plans for investment, regeneration, and infrastructure. Next slide, please. The framework covers a wide range of energy efficiency retrofit and local energy generation measures in its broadest sense to enable improvements. We're not limited by the type of solutions, and we take a holistic approach for each building involved or land. Some projects basically will go for low disruption or fast paybacks. Others will go for major system overhauls and will include some energy generation while others don't. Energy savings that we're seeing can be from 20 to 30% on fairly typical projects. However, it might be lower or more basic projects, or on more comprehensive projects, we're seeing savings up to 50% or more, where we're taking a holistic approach and combining solutions. Also, the framework allows to reduce, is allowed to include water saving measures, particularly when addressing where water is being heated. Another feature of the framework, which was new, is that we actually allow refurbishment work to be delivered through the contract. This allows to have one project manager on site and allows projects to fix and make good the building through the one contracted process. Next slide, please. We currently have 16 suppliers. They're a combination of construction, energy companies, and solution manufacturers. On the previous framework, we had 12, and we learnt lessons that's been highlighted. We want to increase the capacity, and when we retendered, 7 of the providers from the previous framework were selected successfully, and we brought on 9 new providers. Currently, the new business across this framework is being spread evenly, so which is really positive, and we're seeing great response to the mini competition tenders that are being issued, and on average 5 to 8 suppliers responding to those requirements. So we're actually bringing quite good quality responses. Next slide, please. So how does the refit framework work? Well, refit offers clear milestones to support the internal approval process. The client controls their project's progress, and there are clear go, no-go decision points for the client before installation. There's opportunity to phase projects, basically including buildings, by their size, tenure, and their actual operational use. And what we're seeing organisations within preparing their brief is including all their sites and actually just putting a first phase of 10 to 18 buildings. This allows to bring big buildings or problem buildings to be addressed, and we're also even seeing new buildings coming in where they're just being optimized as part of this delivery process rather than replacing equipment. We use pre-developed templates to assist the mini competition phase, and as part of the development we work with the key stakeholders in scoping a project and understanding the requirements, and that could be based upon a number of different issues: investment levels, payback, or actually the type of savings that are being achieved, and working within that triangle. We run with the client a mini competition with the framework providers, and a supplier is selected. The provider then provides a technical feasibility study to inform the business case pre-contract, and these documents set out the level of investment, contractual savings, and the process for measuring and verifying these savings. This has become a very key area, and we are now enforcing that type of rigor in ensuring that savings or generations being measured are seen and contractually managed during the payback period of the project. We then install the measures, which is no different to any other construction project. Health and safety plans is being managed and progressed, and we have to also then make sure the monitoring and verification protocols are set in place, and the contract management continues through the payback period of the project. Next slide, please. Our expert teams cover the following areas. The first presentation talked about facilitation, and it's very key that stakeholder engagement at the start, working with the states, financial directors, legal, procurement, and even political members is very key to get a project off the starting blocks and getting it to move forward. The support that we offer is moulded. It often involves peer-to-peer supports across legal, finance, technical, and when we're talking about the financial approach, we have to make sure that the funding routes are considered, verified, and compliant, particularly if off-balance sheet or more complicated financing routes are being considered. That technical support gives clients confidence, and also we work with them with the service provider to ensure what is being offered is effective, appropriate, and is going to deliver the savings. Can I have next slide, please? This is just quite a detailed summary of the areas that we have to go through. I'm not going to talk them all through, but the object really through this process is to have a compliant procurement that cannot be challenged, to have a project that has the buy-in, and ensure that the client is comfortable with each of these stages and supported so they can actually deliver a project that is to their requirements, to their needs, and can be measured effectively. And I just think I'm happy to talk through this in more detail, but this would normally take about 10 minutes to talk through, but I won't go any more than that. But it's an example of the areas that need to be covered as part of the procurement. Next slide, please. The REFIT programme has delivered over 750 projects. It's generated millions of savings across the public sector, and as I said, typical projects 10 to 30% based on the type of schemes, but we have seen schools achieve 60, 70, 80% saving when using a combination of energy efficiency and renewable solutions and using energy displacement for electricity. We're seeing battery storage coming in, and we've delivered over £140 million of installed measures, and we have a pipeline that's being procured and it's growing of over 120 million. Sorry. Basically, What I wanted to talk about now was some of the clients that we've actually worked with. DEFRA has a large estate across England. They were looking at how they could actually deliver a program across their estates. Now, DEFRA had a previous program of trying to deliver a range of efficiency programs across their estates, and what they were having a challenge was how to finance the works. And their original brief was to us was, we have no money. Can we create a model where the savings actually pay for the works? So this program was delivered on that basis. During that process, there was a spending review and money was made available to actually invest as capital. And their first program involved a range of laboratories and office space buildings, and it had an investment of 2.3 million and is making savings of £300,000 per annum and about 756 tonnes of CO2 per annum as well. What has happened is, as part of the phasing of this, they've included their other bodies within them, the Environment Agency and additional buildings and also land. And this is allowing them to now to create phase 2 and potentially phase 3 over the subsequent years. Next slide, please. Cambridgeshire County Council has been mentioned as part of the Millie investment. We worked with the Millie delivery team to create a procurement which would allow them to aggregate a number of different areas: schools, a large solar park, corporate buildings, and also their local regional partners, district councils, smaller councils within their region. Currently, over 50 projects have been delivered. There's investment of 21 million. And we're seeing basically the program grow year upon year with the neighbouring partners as well. The schools program has delivered over, I think now, 41 schools, but it also has a large pipeline of schools waiting to be retrofitted over this year and next. Can I have the next slide, please? This is an example of one of Cambridgeshire City Council's partners. They utilised the framework as a partner and identified 2 of their car parks, and they actually drill down and piggybacked on the frameworks and drill down compliant-wise the supplier, Bouygues. The investment was 245,000, but they're making £42,000 savings a year on their estate, and there's this type of savings they're achieving on carbon and kilowatt hours. It just shows the type of activities that are happening, and now we're working with Cambridge City Council on other partners within the region to actually extend their range of activities using this procurement activity. Next slide, please. Oh, no, sorry, just leave it. Yeah, I'd just like to say thank you very much. Sorry, back, please. Just like to say thank you very much for your time. And if you have any questions, please ask them today, or if not, please contact me on my email address. I'll be very happy to share how we've delivered some of the projects, some of the challenges we faced, and happy to deal with that at any time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Robert. And we do have some questions from you from the audience. Thank you.
So firstly, a question on the level of target savings. So how is the level of the energy efficiency target saving decided by the client? And are local partnerships encouraging them towards deeper levels of savings with longer payback periods?
That's a very, very interesting question. You have to understand that that answer is based around a number of different factors. One, how long is the organisation going to be staying within the building? Two, what is the financing rules for that organisation as payback rules? Quite often councils will have up to 10 years and we have to work within that parameter. As to targets, that can be based upon what is potentially potential as a starting point within that building. We do some benchmarking work to assess what is potentially there, what has been done previously as well, because you have to factor that in. If there's been T5 lights or LED lights being fitted in the building, and the heating system is relatively modern, your opportunity to get deeper retrofit is going to be challenging. It might be more controls and optimization. So The client's requirements are going to be very specific. In Cambridgeshire, they have a 15-year payback. That is not the norm. We're normally seeing up to 10 years. Where we're starting to see district heating solutions and large-scale renewable solutions, or fabric, external cladding and windows, they have payback periods that are longer. But what we're seeing is people becoming quite savvy, and if they can combine their project and actually blend it with shorter payback periods, the overall project reduces in its value as a payback period. So it's a real difficult one. There's going to be financial directors demanding short payback periods. There's going to be estate people trying to work out what they're doing with their buildings, and there's going to be political members trying to make sure there's not so much debt on the books, or trying to drive projects that actually make a difference. Is that helpful as an answer, Andy?
Then a second one is around how the support from the REFIT team is paid for. So you kind of mentioned some support from central government, and so the person who asked the question it also understands that there was some ELENA funding involved, but can you say a little bit more about how the REFIT technical and advisory support is funded?
Yes, there are currently 3 models of the REFIT support in England and Wales. In London, it's free. It is paid by ELENA, and that's based upon a grant with key criteria that has to be achieved. It's a ratio of the funding grant and a percentage. It used to be 15 to 25. London is looking at different funding models to keep that team delivered. In Wales, there's a contribution requirement of £20,000, which is capitalised within the project, and that ensures that clients are putting some skin into their project, into the game. Outside of Wales and London, clients pay between £50,000 to £70,000 to have their projects delivered. This is structured so it goes into the capitalisation stage, but it's also phased to ensure that the clients know which milestones are being achieved. That is more challenging, but when we're getting a project scoped, it's been supported, signed off, and and the funding arrangements are being all clarified. So hopefully it kind of indicates the 3 models that are currently available.
Thank you very much, Robert. If we have any other questions, we will follow. We will send them to you. Thank you again.
Thank you.
And I'm now going to do the last presentation, which aims to focus on 2 of the current topics which are open, part of the energy efficiency call of Horizon 2020 program. So I will refer to the project development assistance with the acronym of EE11, as well as the EE9 topic, innovative financing for energy efficiency investments. What are we talking about? PDA, Project Development Assistance support, aims to really build the technical, economic, and legal expertise which is needed for the project development in order to launch concrete investments by the end of the project. And this is an important aspect of the PDA project that has been mentioned both by Miguel and Erika before. The idea is to develop organizational innovation in the financing engineering or in the mobilization of the investment program to remove legal, administrative, or any other market barriers. It can be related to aggregation, pooling or bundling of projects in order to reach critical size of a portfolio, and to mobilize private finance. Who is eligible? We are talking here in terms of both public and private project promoters. So it could be public authorities that are grouping, public-private infrastructure operators, energy service companies, retail chain, large property owners, and service industry. Here, what is quite specific compared to other of the calls that are managed by our team is that proposals from one single entity are eligible. In terms of sector, the scope is quite broad. We can support projects related to existing public and private building, social housing, street lighting, water, wastewater services, retrofitting of existing district heating and cooling networks, industry and services, as well as urban transport fleets. As I mentioned quickly, it's the ultimate goal of project development assistance is to launch investments by the end of the action. What we mean by that is that at least you should have the signed contracts of the investments, like the construction work or the EPC or any other contract. And of course, the construction work can start afterwards. The other key element, which was mentioned by Erika, is what we call the leverage factor. This means that every million euro which is invested by the EU through the Horizon 2020 support should trigger investments of at least 15 million. So you have a leverage factor of 1 to 15. And the project needs to have an exemplary or showcase dimension in their ambition in terms of energy savings or in terms of the investment size. And they need to deliver either organizational innovation in the financial engineering. So, for instance, on-bill financing scheme, guarantee funds, factoring funds, and mobilization of the investment program. And that has been mentioned before, bundling or pooling of projects, specific stakeholder engagements, solutions, etc. PDA project also aim, and that's why they're also supported by us, a high degree of replicability. And it is important to have part of the project an action plan to communicate the experience, the results across the EU towards potential replicator who have similar market conditions or financial solutions available. Project should demonstrate sufficient project maturity in the starting point. That can be in terms of pipeline of the project identified, the strategy already in terms of financing mechanism and financial engineering, and of course building on the experience of previous PDAs important too. And at the end of this presentation you will have a slide with reference to all the PDA projects supported in Horizon 2020, as well as the fact sheets that we developed of all the projects that had been supported in the frame of the Intelligent Energy Europe program, and at that time it was called MLEI project. I wanted to stress the importance of impact, which are fully part of the evaluation of the proposals. Here we talk in terms of investments and the leverage factor, of course, of the energy saved by the project, by the renovation work, the production of renewable, if applicable, but as well as the capacity building of the team, if it's a one-stop shop, if the development unit, it can be the capacity building within the region, also part of, for instance, the municipality part of the project, if we talk about public buildings. And you need to be quite precise in terms of the estimation of both the energy savings and the investments. And you need to also already identify which type of evidence you are planning to provide to demonstrate the impacts by the end of the project. So there is this table which we encourage you to fulfill. It's part of the proposal, so you have a description of the investments, also in terms of the description of the building, of the energy saved expected, the payback time, and of course the energy investments plans. A quick email, a quick message on about the different activities that have been supported until now. As you can see in the middle, the PDA is really between the project promoters and the launch of the investments, and includes technical, financial, and legal support. So we can imagine that this relates to the retrofitting of public buildings that was mentioned today. Also work towards condominium or multifamily houses, or social housing sector to launch EPCs, setup of one-stop shop, and a really integrated service towards either condominiums or municipalities, or the retrofitting of street lighting, for instance. This is a promised slide with a reference to all the projects. And as Erika mentioned, the size of the portfolio is between 7.5 and 50 million investments. And if you target a larger investment program, then I would refer here quickly to the ELENA facility, which is not managed by us, but directly by EIB. And those are larger projects. They are more ambitious in terms of the size, but somehow the logic is quite similar. And they target bankable projects in energy efficiency, distributed renewable energy, and urban transport. Here, the leverage factor is, the leverage ratio is of 20. It's different. They don't have a cut-off date like we do. You don't have, so you can directly contact EIB if you have any proposal. Quickly, a few words about the EE9 Innovative Financing for Energy Efficiency Investments call. The scope is really large, but if I had to summarize it in 4 bullet points, I will refer to the setup of innovative operational financing scheme. And here we talk about dedicated credit lines, guarantee facility, on-bill financing or on-tax financing scheme, citizen financing solution. But we could also envisage replication of a successful solution, which, for instance, would have been developed under a PDA initiative already, and could be replicated in other parts of Europe. The establishment of a regional or national aggregator to develop those large standardized project pipelines. And finally, the creation of a EU or regional national energy efficiency investment roundtable and platform. Here, for instance, we have, I can refer to the CEFIPA project already running in Austria. Where to find information? Horizon 2020, as most of you know, is probably familiar, has a single participant portal, a single entry point, but I did copy here the link to those 2 specific topics, which are open for application, the deadline being on the 4th of September, so you still have time to apply. But this takes time, so we would encourage you to already talk with your region or with your stakeholders about it. And if you want information about either more detailed presentation about those 2 topics, or from any of the other topics which are currently open, I referred here to the link to all the materials and all the recordings done by my colleagues about all the topics currently open. And finally, to conclude, I would like just to refer to the link on our LinkedIn page of the SEI Forum Initiative. So this is a page that has been set up quite recently, and which where we do aim to regularly post about the any events or initiative that we do believe are of interest for the community, and where you are also all welcome to join and to disseminate as well your material. And the second screenshot is of the page which I was referring at the beginning, which includes the links to all the events that have been organized since November 2016 in different capitals in Europe, as well as the recordings of the previous webinars, and the link of today will be added on this slide. Thank you very much for your presentation. And apparently I've been extremely clear, because we do not have... Okay, we have one question apparently.
Under EE9, just somebody asking for clarification on whether applications from only one country would be a negative, or whether multiple countries are preferred.
Let me double check, but EE9 does not have a specific condition, I think, in terms of application, meaning that 3 entities are needed. I will check that, but I'm pretty sure of it. Okay, then I would like to thank the speakers of today, Miguel, Erika, and Robert, who have, I think, spent a lot of time on trying to be as clear and transparent regarding the initiative that they are running. So thank you very much to the 3 of you, and good luck for your projects. I would also like to thank Florian and Handy, who are organizing all the logistics behind the screen, and as part of the SEI forum contract. Thank you very much. We will publish all the material as I indicated in the previous slides, and we will keep you informed about the next events and webinars that we will organize. Thank you.